Have you ever seen a moment so small, so fleeting, that it seemed almost meaningless until you realized it could change everything you thought you knew? Have you ever watched your favorite idol do something that looked innocent at first, only to wonder later whether it was the first undeniable sign of a secret no one was meant to discover? This week, as the Paris air shimmered with the chaos of camera flashes and frenzied whispers, Kim Taehyung, known to millions around the world as V from BTS, stepped into the most glamorous spotlight of his career, only to leave behind a trail of questions so unsettling that even his most devoted supporters cannot look away. The incident lasted mere seconds, but in that instant, something cracked open that may never fully close again. Was it simply a misunderstanding, a harmless mix-up in the feverish crush of fans desperate to catch his attention? Or was it the first clue to a hidden agenda Taehyung never intended the public to see? If you think this is an exaggeration, look again. Watch the footage frame by frame. Listen to the voices rising in a collective gasp as Taehyung reached out, took a plain notebook from a trembling hand, and then, without hesitation, slipped it under his arm as though it belonged to him all along. And then consider this. Why didn't he return it immediately? Why did he keep walking, his expression composed, as the fan's voice rose, uncertain, then pleading, calling after him to clarify that the notebook was not a gift? Was it really possible he didn't hear? Or was he too determined to maintain an image of effortless calm to risk turning around? Why does this moment matter? Because in a single gesture, Taehyung forced the world to ask a question no one ever imagined they'd need to. What was inside that notebook? And why did he act as if it was always meant for him? For anyone who hasn't been following every pulse and rumor of BTS's complicated evolution, it might seem absurd to read so much into a few seconds of confusion. But if you have watched the group grow from uncertain trainees to global icons, you know that nothing about them is accidental. Every movement, every interaction, every public appearance is scrutinized, strategized, dissected. So when something breaks that choreography, especially something as unexpected as this, there is always a reason. And this time, the reason feels darker than anyone wants to admit. Some fans insist it was simply a moment of sensory overload. Taehyung, fresh from military service and thrust back into the searing white heat of international fame, was overwhelmed. In this version of the story, the notebook was just an object among dozens of others, gifts, letters, memorabilia, pressed into his hands by a crowd desperate to touch a piece of his stardom. But if that's true, why was his reaction so strangely composed? Why didn't he pause, even for a moment, to ask whether it had been meant for him? Others have proposed an even more troubling theory, that the notebook was never intended to be a gift at all, but a carefully prepared message, one meant to reach him without passing through managers or security. If so, who wrote it, and what secret did it contain that Taehyung felt compelled to conceal in plain sight? For days now, every corner of the internet has filled with speculation. Some say the fan was an ordinary admirer whose heartbreak over the incident has only added to the tragedy of the moment. Others claim she was an insider, someone with a message Taehyung had been expecting all along. If you think that sounds paranoid, look at how quickly the footage disappeared from some social media platforms, pulled down by copyright claims and privacy concerns almost before it could go viral. Is that normal protocol? Or was someone determined to erase the evidence before the questions grew too loud to silence? Why does this mystery feel so urgent, so different from the hundreds of other chaotic fan encounters that have surrounded BTS for years? Perhaps because Taehyung has always been the group's most enigmatic figure, the member who reveals just enough to stay relatable but guards the rest behind an inscrutable smile. His artistry has always been a dance between revelation and concealment. But in Paris, it wasn't a song lyric or an abstract photograph. It was a simple notebook, carried away like contraband in front of the entire world. What could possibly be written inside that would justify the risk of taking it? Some fans have pointed to the timing, mere weeks after his discharge from the military, as rumors swirl about solo projects that could permanently alter the group's dynamic. Could the notebook have contained sensitive details about his negotiations with fashion houses, music labels, or even private contracts meant to secure his independence? Others whisper an even more tantalizing possibility, that the notebook was a message from someone Taehyung cannot publicly acknowledge, a figure from his past, perhaps, or a confidant whose influence threatens to derail everything he has built. What if this was not the first time he has been contacted this way, but simply the first time he failed to disguise it? Imagine the stakes. A superstar poised at the crossroads of fame, ambition, and loyalty, handed a message so explosive he couldn't risk discarding it, even if taking it meant exposing himself to the kind of scrutiny no apology could erase. Why hasn't Taehyung spoken out to clarify what happened? In the days since, he has maintained an eerie silence, allowing speculation to flourish unchecked. Some say it's because he doesn't owe the public an explanation for every private moment. But if it was truly innocent, wouldn't a single sentence, "It was a misunderstanding, nothing more," be enough to end the debate? The fact that no such statement has come fuels only one conclusion. There is something in that notebook he doesn't want the world to know. Can you imagine the weight of that secret? Carrying it through the rest of the event, through photo ops and interviews, through the endless barrage of camera shutters capturing every flicker of emotion on his face? Is it any wonder that, in some angles, he looks almost relieved when the show is finally over, as the footage continues to spread, resurfacing faster than any PR team can suppress it? Fans are left to piece together a narrative with nothing but conjecture and instinct. Some see the incident as a tragic misunderstanding destined to overshadow an otherwise triumphant return. Others see it as the first clue in a puzzle that could unravel everything we think we know about Taehyung's next move. If you're hoping for easy answers, you won't find them here. Because the truth is, no one outside Taehyung's inner circle knows what he read, or whether he has read it yet at all. Perhaps it sits unopened in a hotel safe, too dangerous to confront before he is ready. Or perhaps he memorized every word before quietly destroying it, ensuring that the secret will remain his alone. But if that is the case, you have to ask yourself, what secret is so powerful that it was worth risking the loyalty of millions, worth inviting this avalanche of suspicion? The longer Taehyung stays silent, the more impossible it becomes to believe the notebook was harmless. In the vacuum of explanation, the fandom's theories have only grown more elaborate. Some claim to have seen a glimpse of writing on the first page, lines that looked like song lyrics or perhaps coded instructions. Others are convinced it was a contract, prepared by someone who wants to exploit Taehyung's fame for reasons he cannot yet reveal, and so the question lingers, sticky and unanswerable. Is this the moment we will look back on years from now as the beginning of the end, or the start of a transformation even Taehyung himself doesn't fully understand? If you think this sounds like a conspiracy, look again at how quickly the footage was suppressed, how thoroughly the official accounts have ignored it. If it was a simple fan interaction, why not acknowledge it and move on? Why allow the rumors to metastasize into something that threatens to consume the narrative of his return? Perhaps because acknowledging it would mean admitting that something has changed, and that some secrets, once glimpsed, cannot be made invisible again. And as the world keeps watching, as every new rumor adds another layer to a mystery no one can fully explain, you have to wonder, will Taehyung ever tell us what really happened? Or will the truth remain locked away, scrawled in a notebook that may never see the light of day? But maybe the most unsettling part of this entire spectacle isn't what was in the notebook or how quickly it vanished into Taehyung's possession. Maybe the real story, the one no one has the courage to say out loud, is that we are watching an idol who has always seemed invulnerable finally reveal cracks in the armor. Because if there is any constant in the story of BTS, it is the way each member has balanced the tightrope of collective loyalty and private desire. And if you look closely enough, you can see how that balance has begun to tilt. Can you blame him? After all, how many people in history have carried the hopes of millions on their shoulders before they were even old enough to rent a car? How many times can you reinvent yourself under a microscope before you start to wonder whether any of your decisions are truly your own? If there is one thing the notebook incident makes brutally clear, it is that Taehyung is no longer willing to perform the illusion that every moment belongs to us. For better or worse, he has decided that some things will remain his alone, even if that means we are left with nothing but questions. What are we supposed to do with those questions? Where do they go when there are no answers, no statements, no clarifications to soothe our curiosity? The internet has become a feverish echo chamber of speculation. Twitter threads dissect the angle of his hand, the set of his shoulders, the look in his eyes. Instagram comment sections fill with please. Please tell us what happened. TikTok edits overlay somber piano music and captions like, the day everything changed. And still, Taehyung remains silent. Do you think he's watching? Late at night, scrolling through the hashtags, reading the frantic theories and the confessions of fans who feel betrayed? Or has he already made peace with the knowledge that no matter what he says, the truth will never belong to him again? Perhaps that is why he has chosen not to respond. In refusing to explain, he is reclaiming a tiny corner of privacy in a world that demands total access. But if so, he must know what it costs. You can feel the cost in the way some army accounts have begun to fracture. Longtime supporters, once united in fierce loyalty, are now divided into factions. Those who defend him without question, those who demand accountability, those who quietly mourn the end of an innocence they thought was real. The same fans who once shouted his name in stadiums are now whispering doubts to each other in private DMs. Do you think he's changed? Do you think he even cares? If you think this is an overreaction, ask yourself why the footage was so quickly suppressed. Why? In an era when every celebrity misstep becomes instant fodder for memes, this moment has been treated like a state secret. The truth is, no one in Taehyung's team expected the notebook to become the defining symbol of his return. But now that it has, they seem to believe the only way to contain it is to pretend it never happened. Does that strategy ever really work? History suggests otherwise. Because if there is one thing more powerful than the official narrative, it is the story we invent to fill the gaps. And right now, the gaps are big enough to swallow everything Taehyung has built. The irony is that the rest of the event was nearly perfect. If you watch the official highlights reel, you'll see Taehyung radiating the easy confidence that has made him a global icon. The clothes were immaculate. The poses were precise. The applause was deafening. And yet, none of it matters anymore. In the minds of millions, it has all been eclipsed by a single question. What was in that notebook? Some will say it was nothing. Others will insist it was everything. But the longer he refuses to speak, the more that question becomes the only truth anyone can agree on. Do you remember when Taehyung was the group's softest heart? The one who cried easily, who clung to the others when he was nervous, who seemed to wear his affection without calculation. It is almost impossible to reconcile that image with the man who walked out of the Celine show in Paris. Expression unreadable, notebook tucked against his chest like a shield. When did he stop trusting us enough to share what was in his hands? Or, and this is the question no one dares ask, did he ever trust us at all? If you look back at the history of BTS, you'll find countless examples of small moments that took on outsized meaning. A gesture, a glance, an offhand remark that sparked theories lasting years. But never has there been a moment that felt quite this pointed, this deliberate. The more you replay the footage, the harder it becomes to believe that it was an accident.